Hey everyone, today we are going to be talking about numerical expressions and being able to use the order of operations. A numerical expression is a combination of numbers and at least one operation. So the example that I have here is -3 plus 5 times 4. So I've got 3 numbers and 2 operations. To evaluate that expression means to find the value or calculate the answer. The order of operations may be something that you're sort of familiar with. You should at least be familiar with the end of order of operations. But now we're going to add in the idea of grouping symbols and exponents because we talked about exponents yesterday. The order of operations are rules that we follow when more than one operation is being used. If we didn't have the order of operations, if we didn't have these rules that we all have to follow together, everybody would get a different answer depending on how they chose to evaluate. So step 1, are there any grouping symbols? Are there any parentheses? Are there any brackets? Are there any fraction bars? Number 2 is, are there any exponents to be evaluated? And we talked about exponents yesterday, that repeated multiplication. Number 3 is to multiply and divide from left to right. So if multiplication comes first from left to right, you multiply first. If division comes first from left to right, you divide first. Same thing with addition and subtraction. You're going from left to right. The goal is to get your expression down to just addition and subtraction at the end so that you can add and subtract from left to right. How will you know when to multiply? You'll know when to multiply when 2 numbers are in parentheses next to each other, when you have a number next to a parentheses or a grouping symbol, when there is the X for multiplication, or when there is the dot for multiplication. These are the 4 that I can think of right off the top of my head. If there's any others that come up throughout the course of evaluating these expressions, we'll add those to this box. When we evaluate using order of operations, you can see that I've got some lines drawn here. We are going to use each line as we simplify. You are going to be filling in every single line every time we do one of these. You're only doing 1 step per line. So number 1 says 24 minus 8 plus 6. That is all addition and subtraction. So I'm going to go from left to right. Well, from left to right, 24 minus 8 comes first. So my first line is going to say 16 plus 6. And now I'm left with addition. 16 plus 6 is 22. Number 2, I flipped the order. So I've got 32 plus 16 first. We got the addition first. So 32 plus 16 is 48 minus 2. And 48 minus 2 is 46. Number 3 and number 4 are now multiplication and division. So using both of those operations. So left to right, 15 times 2 comes first. So 30 divided by 6. 30 divided by 6 is 5. In number 4, the division comes first. 48 divided by 3 is 16 times 2, and 16 times 2 is 32. Number 5, now we're combining addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So order of operations says that multiplication and division come first from left to right. So this is going to be 16 plus 8 minus 3. And now I can go from left to right. So 16 plus 8 is 24 minus 3, and 24 minus 3 is 21. Number 6, I'm going to do my division first from left to right. So 6 divided by 3 is 2, so 12 plus 2 minus 2. And then I've got my addition and subtraction from left to right, so 14 minus 2 is 12. Number 7 adds in the grouping symbols, so I'm going to start inside my parentheses first. So even though minus came first, my grouping symbols are more important than that. They're more powerful. So this is going to be 19 minus 19, and 19 minus 19 is 0. On number 8, there's 2 sets of grouping symbols, so you're actually going to start all the way on the inside with 36 minus 6. So I'm going to keep the bracket. 12 plus 30 divided by 2. And because I have this bracket still, I have to do this first. So 42 divided by 2 is 21. Okay, grouping symbols, regardless of operation that is inside them, are the most important. They're the thing that you're supposed to do first. So even if that makes your addition come first, that's what you're supposed to do. On the back here, we start to get a little bit more complicated. So for number 9, 4 plus 6 is going to come first. So this is going to be 5 times 10 minus 7 times 7. Then I'm going to do my first set of multiplication, so 50 minus 7 times 7. Then my second set of multiplication, so 50 minus 49, and 50 minus 49 is 1. Number 10, I'm going to start with my parentheses, so 2 plus 9 first. So 6 times 11 minus 3 times 8. And then from left to right, this multiplication comes first. So 66 minus 3 times 8. Then this multiplication, so 66 minus 24 is going to be 42. Now in this next one, inside my grouping symbols, I have multiplication that needs to come first. So I'm going to do that multiplication first. So 2 times 4 plus 15. Then my grouping symbol is still there, so 4 plus 15 comes next. So 2 times 19, and 2 times 19 is 38. Up here, I've got 6 minus 3 in the grouping symbols first, so 3 times 9 is 27. Now these last ones down here, we really kind of throw the kitchen sink at you. We got some exponents, we've got some grouping symbols, we've got some fractions that we have to deal with. So again, we're going to follow order of operations. So on number 13, I'm going to do 6 plus 4 first, because it's inside parentheses. So 100 minus 3 squared times 10 plus 2. Now my exponent is supposed to come next. So 100 minus 9 times 10 plus 2. Now from left to right, I've got multiplication first. So 100 minus 90 plus 2. And then I'm going left to right. 100 minus 90 first is 10. And 10 plus 2 is 12. In number 14, inside my grouping symbols, this comes first because the exponent comes before division. So this is going to be 5 plus 64 divided by 2 over 5 times 2. So now I'm going to do my division. Now for my division, I've got to do 64 times 5 over 2. Okay, so I'm going to do my keep, change, flip down here. This becomes a 32, this becomes a 1, and 5 times 32 is 160. So this is 5 plus 160 times 2. So I took this division and I did my fraction division down here. So now I'm going to do the multiplication. So 160 times 2 is going to be 320. So 5 plus 320 is going to be 325. And I think the extra line here is because I could have done this fraction division on that next line, but I came and did it down here to have more room to work. Number 15, again, I'm going to go all the way inside my parentheses, and I'm going to do this exponent first. So I'm going to have my bracket 23 minus 8 plus 8 times 2 plus 10. Now notice I'm only changing one thing at a time, especially in these longer ones. So the only thing that changed was 2 to the third power equals 8. Now I'm going to do this set of parentheses. So my bracket stays 23 minus 16 times 2 plus 10. 23 minus 16 is my next one because it's inside those brackets still. That's going to be 7 times 2 plus 10. Then I multiply. 7 times 2 is 14 plus 10 is 24. Number 14 is very similar, number 16 is very similar to number 14. It has that exponent on the inside of the parentheses and then that fraction division. So I'm going to start with my exponent. So 200 minus 36 divided by 4 over 7 times 2. So now I'm going to evaluate my fraction division. So I can do it right here. So 200 minus, this is going to be 36 over 1 times 7 over 4 times 2. So I can do, this is 9 and this is 1. And you can see how that might be a little bit cramped. So if we want to do it like number 14 where we bring it down to the bottom, that works too. So this is going to be 200 minus 63 times 2. And then I'm going to do 63 times 2 because multiplication comes first. So 200 minus 126. And then 200 minus 126 is 74. Now, I did most of this just using my general knowledge of adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. So I did it mostly without a calculator until the very end here. I checked that number 16 with my calculator. You are allowed to use a calculator the entire time. I would challenge you to try doing some of these things without your calculator, but there are some things that you're just going to want to double check and make sure that you've got them right. With these order of operations questions, make sure that you're going through more than once and checking to make sure that you've done your operations in the correct order, that you've calculated correctly through your order of operations, especially now that we're throwing this fraction division with exponents and parentheses and all of those things, kind of making these a little bit more challenging. Okay, so remember that order of operations, grouping symbols first. So parentheses, brackets, fraction bars, anything that groups something separately. Then exponents. If there's exponents inside your parentheses, you do those first. Multiply and divide from left to right. Okay, so we're going to multiply and divide from left to right. And then we are going to add or subtract from left to right. On these particular problems, we're going to make you use every single line. So make sure that you're using every single line when you go through. I know on number 14, I didn't use every single line, but I wanted to show my work a little bit bigger because you can see on number 16 how it might get a little bit cramped. So I'll be okay if you don't use every single line on that particular problem.